Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar hosted by WCMA. Today we are focusing on resources for effective recruitment. We've got a really great jam-packed schedule of expert speakers and a WCMA member to share their perspectives with us today. Before we get started, I want to go through a couple of quick housekeeping notes. We ask that you mute yourselves throughout the webinar today until we get to the question and answer section, just so we don't have any interruptions in the presentations. We will have a recording of this webinar as well as resources and contact information that'll be shared after the webinar's over later this week. So if you miss anything, can't manage to take a note fast enough, don't worry, we will send that out to you later on and it'll be available for you to watch back later. And finally, I just wanted to make sure to note that we will have time for questions at the end of our session today. Last 10 minutes or so, we will leave plenty of room to go through any questions you might have. We have a few that were submitted prior that we'll cover with our presenters. And if you think of any as presentations are going, please feel free to drop those in the chat box. We will take a look at those throughout and make sure that we get to those questions when we get to Q&A at the end of today's webinar. My name is Grace Atherton. I'm WCMA's Communications Director, and I'm so excited to have all of you here today and moderate this really stellar assortment of speakers that we've got today on these recruitment resources we're going to share. So a quick look at our agenda. We'll start off with a look at workforce development boards. What are they? What kind of resources do they offer? And how can you get in touch with them, whether you're in Wisconsin or in another state? Then we'll go over to talk about American Job Centers. We have a great resource in Julie Enlow, who's going to talk with us about what those are and what they might be able to offer you in your recruitment efforts. And again, how do you start? Where do you find those? How do you get in touch? Then we'll turn to our friends, WCMA members up in Wausau, Great Lakes Cheese. We have Paul Harold and Chang Yang, who are here to talk to us today about their experience with creative recruitment strategies. They're doing some really amazing things up there in Wausau to not just recruit and retain new employees, but to really help build the sense of community around what it is that they're doing up there. Then we'll turn to Rebecca Sweeney with WCMA, who will walk us through the WCMA resources and support that are available to you as members. And we will move into Q&A at the end before we wrap up right around 2 o'clock. So to start us off, I'm going to turn things over to Becca Collins. Becca works with the Workforce Development Board of South Central Wisconsin, and she is here to talk with us about workforce development boards in general. So Becca, I know this is a resource that some may not know is available to them, or if they do know about it, it might just be a surface level knowledge. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you walk us through all the details.
All right, sounds good. Let me get things going. And are you able to see my screen? Wonderful.
That's great.
Perfect. So again, my name is Becca Collins, and I am the programs manager with the Workforce Development Board of South Central Wisconsin. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with you today regarding workforce development boards. And I'll definitely do my best to explain what they are, what resources and services they provide, as well as how you can go about finding your local workforce development board. So what are workforce development boards? Workforce development boards are industry-led nonprofits that are funded by the U.S. Federal Department of Labor, as well as other state and local dollars. So we exist to help business and industry with their workforce needs, as well as assist individuals in finding and retaining employment that will lead themselves and their families to economic self-sufficiency. So workforce development boards are comprised mainly of business, both public and private sector, but they also include local elected officials, educators and training providers, as well as other workforce program leaders. So the makeup is designed so that business, education, and assistance programs are all on the same page with their local workforce needs, and then what services, supports they can provide to meet those needs. One misconception is that workforce development boards are a state or federal entity, although we partner very closely with our states and with the federal government. We are separate nonprofit entities. So there are workforce development boards all across the country. They are based on population, so they may serve a city, a county, or a region. So for example, South Dakota may only have one workforce board, whereas the city of Los Angeles, they may actually have 9 workforce boards for that one city. Here in Wisconsin, we're actually divvied up into 11 regional workforce development boards, which you can see here on the screen. So whereas I work for Workforce Development Board number 10, we have 6 counties in our region. You can see Milwaukee, it's just Milwaukee County. So all divvied up based on population. So while all workforce development boards receive Department of Labor funding and have similar missions, we are all different in structure and available resources. So that's why it's really important to kind of know what area you're in and who your contacts are, so that you know what programs and services they are able to provide in your area. So how do we support our areas or regions? Workforce development boards act as a strategic convener for the system to develop strategies to improve and strengthen our workforce. We work with a bunch of other partners. We can't do it just ourselves, to align our programs and resources. So like I said, we definitely partner very closely with the state, both for those resources, but also to provide assistance to certain populations. For example, we work very closely with the Department of Corrections to be able to assist those who are justice involved or in re-entry to help connect them to employment. We work closely with our American Job Center partners, with Julie will go over here shortly. We look to co-enroll our participants. Instead of duplicating efforts, we want to make sure that we can provide them seamless services across the system. We also partner very closely with technical colleges as they're providing the training that participants need to enter into those more skilled positions. We work with our local schools, K through 12 partners, because we're definitely seeing we need to get in front of the younger people sooner to provide that career exploration. Community-based organizations, definitely partner with a lot of those to make sure we understand the needs of the populations around us, and make sure that we can assist the people that they're helping as well. Then, of course, last but certainly not least, we do work very closely with business and industry as well. We need to know what your pain points are, what your needs are, so that when we work with technical colleges and our other training providers, what skills are you seeing that are in need to be developed so we can get the people skilled up and get those into the positions for you. So main responsibilities of the workforce development boards is the administration of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. You'll hear it called WIOA. We live in a world of acronyms. You'll also heard it referred to as WIOA. So essentially it's an act that's designed to help job seekers access employment, education, training, supportive services so that they can succeed in the labor market, as well as match employers with the skilled workers that they need to compete in the global economy. The really fun thing about WIOA or WIOA is that it is branded something different in every workforce development board region. So it may be referred to something different in your workforce development area. However, if you let them know that you're interested in the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act or WIOA, WIOA, that's national. Everybody should know what you're talking about. Another important thing to add is that even though all boards do administer the WIOA funding, they all have access to different grants and resources depending on the area. So it's not just WIOA. So again, that's why it's important just to know who to contact to see what those resources are. So some of the services that we provide under WIOA and our other grants, we provide direct worker services. So together with our partners, we provide specialized one-on-one programming for underserved populations. We work with individuals who typically have barriers to employment, help them get the skills, education, supports that they need to become more marketable. Across the state, we serve here in Wisconsin annually about 2,500 individuals. We provide them with direct career services, whether it be career exploration, transferable skills, resume writing. We also have funding for upskilling and education. So it could be a short-term cohort training, intro to manufacturing, certified pre-apprenticeship, but then we do also offer funding for post-secondary, so degrees up to an associate's. We do also have funding for some supportive services. We understand that finding a job is fantastic, but if you don't have the right supports in place, you may not be successful. So we're able to provide funding for if they need steel toe boots and they aren't able to afford them, we can provide funding for that. Until they start getting regular paychecks, do they need mileage reimbursement to and from work until they're stable and on their feet? So that's some of the supportive services that under WIOA or some of the other grants that we administer, we're able to provide. We also provide wraparound services, which I think is really great. It's one of the unique services that we provide through WIOA. So when one of our job seekers enters into employment, our case managers don't just clap and clear and say, good job. We actually follow up with our job seekers for a year after they've found employment to make sure, are you stable? Are things going well? Or do you need some of those supportive services to help you retain and be successful in your employment? So it is a very intensive, one-on-one focused, individualized engagement for the job seekers that we engage with. On the flip side, we do also provide business services for our business and industry partners. And in Wisconsin, our system touches approximately 2,000 businesses per year. So we work very closely with our economic development partners. We provide business and retention efforts, layoff aversion. We also work closely with them to understand local area labor market information, because obviously that can be different all across the state, all across the country. So right now in Wisconsin, we are experiencing record highs and record lows. So we have a record high labor force participation rate of 64.2% and a record low unemployment of 2.3%. So what that means is right now there is 2.4 jobs for every job seeker. So we get that there's a need, and now what we have to do at the Workforce Development Board level is try to find out some innovative solutions to help meet those needs. One of the ways that we do this is to collaborate with business and industry to understand, like I said, what are the pain points? We also develop industry sector groups, have them come together in a pre-competitive space to come up with workforce solutions. Could be, working on a campaign to dispel myths around a certain industry. In Workforce Development Board 10, we've definitely done that with construction and manufacturing. We had a collaboration with building trades and manufacturing to create a campaign to target more of the youth population to garner interest in getting into those positions. We also, I know in the Workforce Development Board area that I work in, we have quite a few cheesemakers in our industry sector groups. So if you're not a part of one, reach out to your board and see if you can get on one. They're very, very good groups to be a part of. We also collaborate with our community-based organizations, like I said, to make sure that we're serving their populations, but also a lot of times we have access to untapped labor pools. So like I said, the justice involved a re-entry population. In our area, we work very closely with the organizations that work with English language learner, with our literacy councils, those who are also helping with adult basic education. So we really try to make sure that we understand who our partners are and how we can assist not only job seekers and business, but also the community as a whole, our region as a whole. So that, I probably talked really fast, but that's it in a nutshell. As far as how to find your workforce development board for Wisconsin, we actually, all workforce development boards are in the Wisconsin Workforce Development Association, so the WWDA, and you can find contact information on their website, wwda.org, as well as the state of Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development website. And I actually prefer the state's website to the WWDA one. It has a map of Wisconsin. It's the same map that I showed in a previous slide. And if you click on a county, it will direct you right to which WDA you are in and provide you with contact information. So it's actually pretty user-friendly. Outside of the state of Wisconsin, I would assume, and I apologize, but I would assume that your state's Department of Workforce Development website would have a similar contact page for the Workforce Development Board areas. But we're always happy to assist as well. If you're having trouble contacting your local workforce board, certainly feel free to reach out to myself, or you actually have a wonderful resource in Danica. She worked for our organization for almost 10 years doing this work. So you have a resident expert. But with that, I hope that I've answered a lot of your questions, and we'll kick it back to Grace.
All right. Thank you so much, Becca. That was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So educational and interesting. And I didn't even know that workforce development boards offered all of those different resources. I think I'm in that crowd that had sort of a surface level knowledge. So it was very informative to see that laundry list of all those different resources, not just for job seekers, but for businesses, for different industries. Really fascinating stuff. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Next up, we will turn to our friend Julie Enlow, who is the one-stop operator at the employment. Help me out, Julie.
Employment and Training Association.
Thank you. Yeah, it's employment. I remember the letters, but not the rest of the acronym. Employment and Training Association. And Julie is here to talk with us about American Job Centers, their core programs, resources they can offer you as you're trying to bump up your recruiting efforts and make those new connections. So Julie, I will turn it over to you. Go ahead and let me know whenever you'd like the slides changed, and walk us through all that these job centers have to offer.
Yep, thank you. If you could go to the next slide. When you think of an American Job Center or a job center or a workforce development center, whatever they're called in your local area, as Becca was saying, we basically have two kinds of customers. We have our business partners, such as yourselves, and then we also have job seekers. Whether that person is unemployed or underemployed, we're there to assist them in getting back to work. Next slide. And what most people don't realize is how many no-cost services we have available to our business partners. And so today I want to kind of tap into some of those. I have a lot of information that I'm going to supply you with today. I do have a cheat sheet that I sent out earlier along with a flyer so that some of those highlights today you can just tap right into. Okay, next slide.
And just a reminder to those who joined us a little bit late, all those resources will be sent out along with a recording and contact information after the webinar. So don't worry, we'll get you those. Go ahead, Julia.
No, sounds good. So just like Becca was talking about the WIOA program, WIOA, Title I services, whatever they call it in your local area, is really where we are working with individuals, whether they're in school or out of school youth, just general adults from our regular population. We have dislocated workers, folks that have been laid off, as well as veterans that we work with. And so each one of our career planners, like Becca was talking about, will work with a group of individuals to help them find employment. Like she stated earlier, we do have a work experience program where the Workforce Development Board is the employer of record, and you are able to train that individual, and we will pay that person during the time that they're with you. It's usually between 60 and 90 days, and it allows you to kind of try someone out and for them to also try out that occupation and see if it's a good fit for them. At the end of the time, what we hope is that you would go ahead and hire those individuals and let them start working regularly with you. Sometimes we have individuals like our folks that have been laid off, our dislocated workers, where an on-the-job training grant might be something that we want to look at. This is where you're hiring the individual and they'll pay a portion of that person's wages while you're training them. It's just to kind of offset that cost that you have when taking on a new person, especially when you've got something that's very detailed, like the work that you're providing. And a lot of people probably, unless they're from the industry, don't know how to do that. And so this would be an opportunity to use an on-the-job training grant. We also, like Becca was talking about, offer rapid response. So if there is a layoff that's happening in your area, just so you know, our team will actually go in, folks from the Workforce Development Board, myself, and other partners will go in and talk about reemployment services to the individuals. Sometimes a company will feel like, you know, I'm really nervous about my staff. I want to make sure that they're finding a good spot. And so they might hire an additional team to come in. And usually they're either a staffing agency or an outplacement service that will come in and talk to people about resumes, cover letters, and all those things. Your tax dollars are already paying for that. And so your local rapid response team can come and provide all of that for you at no cost. The additional thing to remember is that sometimes those contracts are only good for 60 or 90 days or, you know, whatever. The folks that work in the WIOA training program are here year round. This is all we do. So again, like if you're looking for someone to assist with something like that, please reach out to your local Workforce Development Board or your local job center, and we will make sure you get some folks in there to assist with that. I also want to mention that a lot of times when a person is laid off, they're looking for different and new opportunities. And so we're going to talk about some of the other resources that you can utilize to kind of lure those people into your position. Okay, next slide. When I started a long time ago, I actually worked in the other core program. This one is adult education and family literacy. So I work for a technical college. I also work for a nonprofit. And I also helped with high school completion programs. We did English as a second language. We would do the vocational English as a second language, or what we call VESL. That is something that sometimes job centers will do for free. Other times they'll have a cost for it. But again, we're working, you know, cooperatively with your local technical colleges or your community colleges in your area, literacy networks or councils, or nonprofits that also supply that kind of service to you. Okay, next slide. Job Service is another core partner that we work with. So in each state, you have a job service office, and they're supposed to provide a labor exchange system to your state. In the state of Wisconsin, we call it the Job Center of Wisconsin, and you can see a copy of it right there on your screen. Basically, what happens is if an individual is looking for employment, they go ahead and create an account just like you would on Monster or Indeed. So this is the state system for that. What it allows is for you as an employer to post openings that you have at no cost. You can search for candidates. And what most people don't realize is that everybody who is on unemployment, so those dislocated workers that have that great work history in front of them, they all have to, if they're receiving unemployment, they need to go on and post their resume on the Job Center of Wisconsin. So it's an awesome tool for you to look for individuals that might actually fit your needs. It also supplies labor market information like I was talking about. Again, in addition to that, there are free on-site recruitments that you can take advantage of. And so I know that here at our local job center, we have at least 3 to 4 business partners that come on site every week and are trying to recruit and then doing on-site interviewing with individuals right away. Again, no cost. There are usually job fairs that are provided on site at your local job centers as well. The next 2 items I want to dive into a little bit more because they're often not utilized and they're a great resource for you. So next slide. The first one is bonding. So the Federal Fidelity Bonding Program is basically a hiring incentive. And it offers you as a business partner an insurance policy for up to $5,000 when you're hiring an individual from a certain category. And what it does is it allows that if you are worried about hiring me because maybe I was justice involved and I had an issue with theft, and you're kind of concerned that some of your tools might walk away, this is a great way that you can hire me and have an insurance policy that is specifically, related to me when you hire me. It's good for the first 6 months when an individual gets hired. This is a unique tool to help that job applicant get their foot in the door and help them kind of get themselves in front of you. Next slide. The bonding program has been around for over 50 years. And I think the statistic that I find absolutely shocking to me is if you look at the number that's listed there, it's only 52,000 individuals have used that program. This is a one-page bond insurance policy for hiring individuals. And again, if you haven't been utilizing it, I do have an additional flyer that'll go out to you to help you kind of know what this is all about. There are specific populations that we're looking at, folks that might have some kind of a risk. So again, justice involved individuals, maybe somebody with a substance use disorder, maybe during the Great Recession, that person had to declare bankruptcy or had poor credit. Someone who's dishonorably discharged from the military, folks with disabilities, and then people that lack work history, and individuals on TANF, which is that temporary assistance for needy families. Okay, next slide. In addition to that one-page bond that you could get, and again, it's very, very easy to take advantage of. So again, I would encourage you to do that, is something called the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. WOTC, sometimes you'll hear it called at your local job center. And this is a credit that's available to employers for hiring individuals from certain targeted groups again. And many of those same people that you could get the bond for, you can actually use for WOTC. This is a way for you to get a tax credit. So again, it's folks on TANF, qualified veterans, folks that were justice involved, anybody with a disability who's going through voc rehab, summer youth employees. So the list is kind of listed there, but again, it's a great resource for you to take advantage of. So if you're not doing that, please check that one out. Okay, next slide. The next core partner that we have at most of our job centers is vocational rehabilitation. So that in our state of Wisconsin is called DVR. Basically, it could be an individual that has a disability. So some folks were born with a disability. Some people were either injured on the job and can't go back to that kind of work any longer, or maybe the individual was in an accident, even if it was off hours, and they can't go back to the kind of work that they were doing before. Those people would qualify for vocational rehabilitation. Myself, I'm somebody who has a disability that developed over time. I have really horrible eyesight. And so I have these funky lenses that I put in every day so that I can see. A lot of times you'll see me looking off to the side because I've got a huge screen over here that helps me to see what's going on. So again, it could be a range of disabilities. A lot of times when people think disabilities, they're thinking about folks that are extremely disabled. Yes, vocational rehabilitation works with those individuals as well, but it could be somebody who's suffering from depression or a visual impairment like myself, or something that's a physical disability, substance use disorder. There are all sorts of individuals that you might be working with that have a disability and you'd never know it. So again, I encourage you to look to vocational rehabilitation as one of those areas to look for potential customers to work for you and employees. They also have different kinds of supports that they can provide, again, at no cost to you. So for me, equipment is a big deal, right? I have this huge, large screen that's next to me. There are also things like headsets or lighting that people might need. It just depends on the different disability as to what kind of a support a person might need. I have actually, in my years of experience, been a job coach at times too, where that is a personal support to the individual that's going to work in your company. So let's say you're doing the manufacturing thing, right? And you need to make sure that your production level stays at a certain level. The job coach is there and starts out with that person, a lot of times maybe up to 8 hours for the full shift while the person is working there. And then what we do is we slowly back away the number of hours that we spend on site with that individual to get them up to speed. And that's how job coaching really works. They also have a work experience program, just like WIOA does, an on-the-job training grant, as well as being eligible for those WOTC tax credits. Okay, next slide. If you are wondering about how do we provide accommodations to individuals, this is something that a lot of business partners get really nervous about, and it's so easy to kind of look and see what those accommodations might look like. There is a website that you can go to. It's askjan.org, and JAN stands for the Job Accommodations Network. And basically on their front page, you see there's an A to Z index. If you click on that, if you want to go to the next slide, it'll give you a list of different kinds of disabilities that you can click on. Okay, I picked this one. And basically what I'm saying is that it tells you a little bit about the disability itself. So things that you may or may not know about that disability. It has different kinds of questions that you can consider. And then it talks about key accommodations that that person might need. Not every person needs every single one of the accommodations that's listed on the screen. And so what I usually do is I give the person a highlighter and I'll say, okay, tell me what kind of accommodations you might need. And then they just highlight those accommodations, and it really helps to have that common conversation about what somebody may need in order to be successful on the job. Okay, next slide. In addition to those core partners, we also have additional partners that you will see at many of the American Job Centers. TAA is a Trade Adjustment Assistance Program, and that's for anybody who was laid off and their position actually went to a different country. So I know that in our case in Wisconsin, we have some folks in rail working for Railback, and some of those positions are going to go to different countries. So again, they would be eligible for the TAA program. What we usually encourage people to do is get signed up for the Dislocated Worker Program first, because in order for them to receive those additional benefits through TAA, they actually have to be certified through the Department of Labor. And we all know how fast the federal government works. So usually what I'll tell people is get people connected to us in the Dislocated Worker Program. And as soon as they're eligible, we're going to transfer them right over. We also work with veteran services as well as community services through block grants. In the state of Wisconsin, those are our CAP agencies or community action agencies. We also work with TANF customers, so temporary assistance for needy families. In the state of Wisconsin, it's called Wisconsin Works for W2. And then the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. In our state, call it food share. Sometimes people refer to it still as the old food stamps program. Okay, next slide. You're wondering, like, how do I find out all of this information or who to contact locally? If you were to go to our labor exchange, which is that Job Center Wisconsin website that you see over on the left-hand side, when you go down to the bottom corner, there is a picture of our state. If you were to click on that, the next picture that shows the state with all the different counties pulls up. If you click on your local county, it's going to tell you who your local job center contacts are. So that's the easiest way to find people that are right there in your neck of the woods in the state of Wisconsin. Okay, next slide. If you are, a part of a different state agency and you're thinking, like, how do I find out what I need in those other locations? Feel free to go ahead and reach out to me. My email is enloe, ENLOE, at eata.org. I used my short email address for all of you. Or you can just get a hold of your local job center and ask for your one-stop operator. Those individuals are just like me. They're here to connect you to all of these different resources. So again, I thank you for letting me come and speak with you today. I know it's a lot of information, but that's why you have that cheat sheet from me. Okay, thanks so much.
All right. That was wonderful, Julie. Thank you so much for all that amazing information. And again, folks, we will send out the resources Julie mentioned, her contact information, all of that good stuff after the webinar. So don't worry, we will make sure you get all of that in your inboxes. Next up, I'm so excited to introduce to all of you and welcome some WCMA members who have graciously agreed to give us some of their time to talk about their experience utilizing workforce development boards and some other really creative, interesting strategies to recruit and retain new employees in their community. And they happened to receive the 2022 Employer of the Year Award just last year by the North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board. So I will turn it over to Paul Harold and Chang Yang of Great Lakes Cheese Company up in Wausau. Guys, take it away. Please tell us about everything you're doing up there.
Very good. We're excited to be here. Just a quick recap of Great Lakes. We're a family and employee-owned company founded by a Swiss immigrant, Hans Epperich, in 1958. And he founded the business based upon some fairly simple principles: hard work, honesty, and integrity. And those values continue to guide us today. We openly talk about an ownership culture guided by common mission, vision, and core promises. I mean, our core business is converting big blocks of cheese into chunks, shreds, and slices. Wausau's role specifically is more of a specialty packaging plant, variety of snacking cheese items, cracker cuts, party trays, individual sticks, and bars. Great Lakes has had a presence in Wausau since about 2003. The older facility was on the left. In sometime around early 2017, the decision was made that we had outgrown that facility, and a commitment to employee owners was to build new here in Wausau and transition to the new facility. That facility gave us new capabilities, and it gave us the ability to grow.
Increase the labor needs in Wausau here in Great Lakes Cheese in Wausau. They're starting from 220 in 2018 to more than 450 employees as of today. We are a multicultural workforce. 50% of our Great Lakes Cheese employees here in Wausau are English as a second language. And you can see that list that we have down here. We have Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Mexico, Nicaragua, Puerto Rico, Senegal, Afghanistan. We have Verdi. I tried to pronounce this one. And we also successful welcoming other resulting from years of our collaboration with the Hmong community in Wausau here. We work really closely with the Hmong American Sanctuary and also Hmong community leaders in Wausau. Since 1994, Dan and Randy purchased Lemke Cheese and the cheese factory in Wausau area here, the printed part I show you over there. We are the first one that hired the Hmong refugee worker for cheese factory in Wausau. And then on November 2003, Great Lakes Lemke Cheese merged to Great Lakes Cheese, and we continue that successful story, working with the Hmong community until now.
In terms of our recruiting strategy, it really started with local awareness. We said we wanted to be visible and relevant. And that really began with a lot of outreach to local officials, Chamber of Commerce, trade group, that's the Central Wisconsin Manufacturing Alliance, reaching out to our educational providers, the technical school, local high schools, and then really leveraging the North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board. I am a board member, have been for several years now. Yes, I'm still learning the alphabet soup of all the acronyms, but I can tell you this, I'm surrounded by a group of people that are passionate about helping people prepare and be successful in the workplace. And those are the types of people that we want to partner with. Wherever possible, we invite people in. We want them to have an understanding of what we do at the plant. We openly tell our story, offer tours, and want them to fully appreciate what we do. We also engage our community in a variety of different ways. School engagement is critical. And this is not just about recruiting, everybody thinks factory, production employees. We're educating our local schools that you name the discipline, and it's probably represented here in the plant in some way, shape, or form. So this is getting in front of tour groups, whether it be food science or robotics, It's talking to business classes, or in the case of the heavy metal tour, that again, that's the Central Wisconsin Manufacturing Alliance. We opened our doors to 3 different middle schools last fall, about 120 students in a single morning. We would bring them through. You can see from our pictures, we want them to prepare to work just like we do. We want them to feel the environment, to see what we do to satisfy our customers and the many people that enjoy our products.
We also engage the Hmong Warsaw Festival, and that is a Hmong soccer tournament in Warsaw. Usually it's people that are over from different states and also on the city and village close to here. Usually on the soccer tournament, we also have like 10 to 13,000 people that are come over to the soccer tournament. We also engage in E30 Hmong New Year's, and we are very visible in the community. Engage in our community, the events that touch our employees. Business community, we also participate in Central Wisconsin Manufacturing Alliance Expo, and also the Warsaw Area Chambers of Commerce Expos.
I'll also add, we've made a conscious effort to be visible and sponsor local activities. These are not big dollar spends, but what it does is it gets us out in front of people. We get to share our products, tell our story. Literally, it could be everything from a balloon fest in the summer to the holiday parade in December.
As far as recruiting, we are not just recruiting employees that come here to work for us and fit for our company, but we want to recruit employees and bring employees here to make us better, our companies better, and ourselves better. In order to do those, companies have to know what they need. They have to know what are those talents for, may be available in the community. So when you need it, then you can go looking for it. We do advertising in local media. We do the radio announcement. We also do TV, newspaper. But on the radio, we also do 2 types of radio. We also do the Hmong version one that speak Hmong. And sometimes you think they speak Hmong, not many people listen, but all the parents that don't know how to speak English, they listen to that every day. So the first thing parents go say to their kids, go looking for a job. They have open and grilled cheese. We got good results on those. We also do direct mailing to our employee, to our candidate over there that we want to bring them in. We also do open interview, and our open interview, we are doing our facility, prefer to do in our facility print here. We want candidate to come over and park in our parking lot and look at our building and say, we want to work for grilled cheese. So all this is low cost, but we have a good result.
Yeah. Last thing I'll add is we really leaned on our existing employees and said, in a very tight labor market, we're growing, we need your help. Help us recruit people that are going to make us better. And we got a wonderful response by doing that. They're our best advocates in the community and have been able to help us grow.
Expectation for our employees owners. We want employees that come here and be passionate about their job, be passionate about the company. If they be passionate about their job, the company, then they go do a good job. They go work harder and work smarter to get the job done. We also want a reliable employee. Employee that come over here reliable for it, be on time for work. The end of the day, say, you know what, still have some work to do. Can I volunteer to do overtime? If we see any employee that work with them and it's unsafe, they put a pause to it and say, you know what, so I say, let's do a different way. We want employees that reliable like that. We also want employees that working together. If you work together, you get a job done better way too. Sometimes you cannot do the job by yourself. You need teamwork. We want employees that are working together. We also want employees that eager to learn. Employees that willing to take the challenging, willing to do cross and training. We always tell our employees, we say, hey, you're here to work. You know what? If you're willing to learn, we can go provide you the tool and we go teach you how to be successful. We go work them to be successful here. And successful story, we have employees that work for grilled cheese, like them and become a lead person. A lead person that a machine operator now become a supervisor. And we have an intern that come here to work for us in the summer, but now it's a manager. So those are successful story that people that are willing to learn, we're willing to teach them to help them to be successful. We're also looking for dedication employee. We told employee that, hey, this is not just a job, a paycheck. This is your career. When you come here to work, this is like your family. This is like your home. Make employee feel like home. Dedicated employees that like those, and they will work, like I said, they will work harder and they will work smarter to make you more different step. And this is the end of our presentation. This is our beautiful building plan in Warsaw here.
That is such a beautiful building. Wow. And what amazing things you guys are doing up there. That was incredible to hear about just the breadth and diversity of your efforts to make those connections in the community, from the things that, you know, you would think of right off the bat, like interacting with local media and making sure you're doing those open interviews to welcome people in and show them what they could have if they have a career at Great Lakes. And then more kind of out of the box things like the Balloon Fest. I want to go to that. That sounds amazing. So fascinating. Thank you both so much for sharing your experience. We're so proud to have you as members, and we really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your expertise with us. All right, next we will turn it over to Rebecca Sweeney. Rebecca is WCMA's Senior Director of Programs and Policy, and she is here to talk with us about the multitude of WCMA resources and support that are available to all of you. As WCMA members, we have a lot of benefits we can offer you to help with your recruiting efforts. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rebecca.
Thanks, Grace. And folks, I'll move fairly quickly through what we have to share, because I know that you have questions for some of our other presenters. But we do want you to know that here at WCMA, we understand that one of the greatest challenges that you're facing right now is having enough people to do the important work of dairy processing and to meet an essential mission of feeding the world delicious, nutritious dairy foods. It's a challenge, and therefore it's a focus for us. Next slide. So first up, want to let you know about something that's coming up very quickly. It's the WCMA Job Fair at CheeseCon, and that will be held on April 4th in Madison, Wisconsin. Next slide. Like I said, Grace, we'll move really quickly through these. We host a job fair that has a very unique participant group. It's held in conjunction with CheeseCon, because at CheeseCon or Cheese Expo, we hold the Collegiate Dairy Products Evaluation Contest. And this brings in students from 10 to 15 universities across the country. These are students who actively want to work in dairy processing and are getting 4-year or advanced degrees in food science or related field. So they're people who definitely want to work for you and have that education. That makes it also a fairly small job fair, right? So we might have about 100 students attend this, looking for either internships or jobs in the industry. But each and every one of them wants to land in the industry. Sometimes when you do a regional job fair, people are just going to see where they can make the most money or where they make a connection. This is a very focused industry specific job fair. So it's $250. It's a cheap opportunity to connect with these students, and we line everything up and we make sure that you get a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet with all of the participants' names and their email addresses and their phone numbers and what they're looking to do. So you've got a great opportunity to connect with them both before the job fair and as a follow-up afterwards. We've expanded our footprint for this job fair. So we have expanded it a couple of times now already to accommodate more. So the way we've got our layout now, we could accept 2 more employers. So if you have an interest in this, please send me an email immediately after this so that I can secure that spot for you. Next slide. We also, on an ongoing basis, host a jobs board on wischeesemakers.org. And every member employer in our industry can post up to 10 opportunities on that site each month at no charge. It's a free service, and we're really happy to see people getting hired off of the site and also making hires off of the site. So we encourage you to use this free service as a member benefit, and note that we do highlight some of those career opportunities on our social media channels and also in our weekly newsletters. Next slide. Another resource for you that I think is underutilized right now is actually the WCMA Internship Exchange. So I think many of you on the call today in this webinar are in the HR field, and so you already understand that a well-run internship program really creates a pipeline of new talent into your business. It can be a little bit of work to set up and to run, but the benefits are many, especially in a tight labor market. It also gives some of your employees the opportunity to lead and to manage incoming interns. So you need to think about developing new talent coming in and also developing the talent that you already have to serve in a more leadership sort of role. We run an online application program for interns. So the students will come to us, they'll fill out the internship application form. We accept applications in a variety of different career fields. Basically anything you could do in the dairy processing field, we'll take you. Next slide. And then we collate, we assemble all of those applications, and then we turn them around to members to match them up. So we're the matchmaker over at WCMA, and we'll give you as many options as we possibly can. Generally speaking, the students will either tell us that they want a specific career field, or they want to work in a specific region of the state or the country. So we'll give you those applications, and then you do with them what you will. I want you to know that we reach out to the University of Wisconsin system, the technical college system, high schools, but then we also just kind of have some random folks who find us somewhere through the interwebs, right? And they come to us. You just let me know if you'd like to engage in this internship opportunity, and I'll make sure to get you applications. Next slide. This last year, something new WCMA did was engage in the creation of a video onboarding series for new hires to the industry. And this series was intended to provide just sort of basic information about what you'd encounter in your early days in your career field, but also hopefully inspire you to stay, right? We want to make sure that people understand that there's a place for anybody in the dairy processing industry if you're willing to work. And as a sort of bonus, we were able to create a very short industry recruitment video. And we'd like to play just a minute of that recruitment video for you. It's about a 3-minute long video, and you can download it from our website and use it when you go to career fairs or to classrooms or to meet with any prospective employee. And we'll play that just a minute of this for you to get a taste of it.
Macaroni and cheese, pizza, cheeseburgers. Odds are your favorite foods have one thing in common.
I will say cheese.
Sarah's passion is also her profession. She's one of more than 3 million workers in America, responsible for bringing dairy goodness to your dinner table.
Today we're making marble cheese or Colby Jack.
Whether you're interested in working at the vat, behind the wheel, or in an office,
Trying to get these last invoices.
the dairy processing industry has a place for you.
There's definitely a career path and opportunities. Every job in the cheese factory is important.
Dairy processing is a dynamic, diverse field.
This is my first job here in the United States. I just arrived like 4 years ago to US.
I grew up actually near the suburbs of Chicago.
I came from Laos to here, first generation of refugee.
I grew up on a farm. After that, we sold the cows. I just applied.
Wherever you're from and whatever your background may be,
We are open for everybody.
We are different, we have different opinion.
All right, so you've got kind of a concept of what that video is. And again, it's very short, but it's intended to deliver a few messages. One, that we want you to come work in dairy processing. Two, that people working in dairy processing are different. They have different interests and backgrounds and skills and abilities, and there's a place for everyone here. And finally, that our industry is one that offers great rewards, whether it is competitive salary or a sense of community or a future that's very bright. All of those things are things we offer. So we encourage you to make use of that tool. Next slide. And very quickly here, these are not all recruitment resources, but wanted to make you aware that we do an annual wage and workforce survey so that you can understand whether you are offering a very competitive wage, which certainly helps to attract new talent. We have those onboarding videos that I mentioned periodically throughout the year and as needed. Generally, our HR managers and directors, they let us know if they need an instant data survey. So for instance, they can find out, are you offering signing bonuses and how much is that? And how long is it till people get the money? We run those kinds of surveys to try to get you the information you need to be competitive in this labor market. We offer leadership trainings. And finally, we have some working groups, some committees that focus on employee health and safety and also workforce strategies. So we invite you to participate in any of those things as well. With that, I'll hand it back to Grace.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. Super informative. We have lots of resources here at WCMA, in addition to the ones that we've shared already with you that are out there in your communities to help you recruit and retain those outstanding employees that really become part of the fabric of your businesses, more than just employees. They become, as Chang said, they become your family at the plant and at the office. So we'll move right into our questions and answers. We have just a few that were submitted prior to the webinar that we'll run through, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time, so we'll go kind of fast. First one, what are other dairy processors doing with regard to hiring bonuses to attract new staff right now? Anyone want to jump in on that one?
I can speak to dairy processing. I bet Becca and Julie have a broader take on this, but we know that in 2021, hiring bonuses sort of spiked across all industries. The Great Resignation led to a lot of new tactics, and one of the most popular ones was signing bonuses. So we saw a spike there, and I think we're seeing in dairy processing, like in a lot of other industries, the amount or the frequency of signing bonus offerings go down just a little bit, but it's still more popular than it was a few years ago, right? So if you're not offering a signing bonus, it's really important for you to take a look at what's happening in your region. In particular, if you're trying to hire for line workers, either in processing or packaging, you just kind of need to know what's the competition doing in your part of the state or in your part of the country. If you're hiring white collar workers, C-suite folks, that's a whole different ball game, and we should have another conversation offline about that. But for those folks, I would say that in general, you're seeing a signing bonus if they're offering it, and about 50%, I think, of our members are offering signing bonuses right now of somewhere between $5,000 and $2,500. And the thing that you should also consider is when you offer those hiring bonuses, it shouldn't be the first day they walk into the job. I think most employers at this point are saying that you'd get that money, that bonus, after 90 days, where we see the greatest drop off when people walk off the job, new hires. But some people are waiting until 6 months or even a year to give that full amount. A lot of people are stair-stepping it and saying, well, you get a third after 90 days, you get a third after 60 days or 6 months, and you get a third after your first year, right? So be strategic if you decide to offer hiring bonuses. In general, I'd say about 50% dairy processors are doing this right now. And the amount ranges depending on where you are in the state and how far that money goes.
Okay, thank you. I'm seeing lots of nodding heads. That's good. Good to see. Good to see. Paul, Chang, I don't want to put you on the spot. If you'd rather not answer, that's absolutely fine. But anything you want to add to that discussion?
We haven't participated in that hiring bonuses, so really not in a position to offer input.
Sure. All right, next question we'll move on to.
And gosh, that's an impressive thing. If you can be fully staffed, and I know you all are, without a signing bonus, it really means that you figured out the secret sauce for your area, and they're coming to seek out you because of what you're offering in the job itself. That's awesome.
Absolutely. All right, I feel like we need to be reaching out to younger people to show them that dairy processing is a viable, successful career field. Any advice on how to launch that kind of effort? This can be a tricky one.
If I can add,
oh, go ahead.
Part of our outreach has been to the schools, and often trying to illustrate the many career opportunities within a food processing facility, dairy processing facility. I'll send people to careersinfood.com just to illustrate the types of careers that are out there in high demand, great paying jobs, consistency in employment. But more and more we're reaching out because we want them to see the career paths that are available right here in our community.
That's great. That's wonderful. Becca, did you want to add something to that?
I was just going to suggest reaching out to your workforce development board area as well for certain initiatives. In our region, we have Future Quest, which has about how many middle schools, Julie, do you think came to?
I want to say at least 50 of the middle schools came, and I would echo that. The middle school is where it's at to try and catch them earlier. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, and it was just employers were there and it was very interactive, so hands-on. So the young people got to really kind of experience and see the culture. So that's a great initiative. I would also say, youth apprenticeship is becoming a bigger and bigger thing that people are entering into. So, but your local workforce development board will know about the initiatives in your area.
Call up that high school guidance counselor. Okay, guys, just give them a call. They'd love to have you in. Use the industry recruitment video. Make sure you create a handout that talks about how much you're paying right now, because I think a lot of parents end up seeing that handout, right? Kind of like what Chang was talking about, that it's a mom and dad saying, wait, are you not sure about college yet? Are you not sure about tech school? Why don't you try this out first, right? And I think our industry's paying so well and offering great benefits, and it can be really attractive. You just have to get in the school.
I also mention that sometimes the local technical colleges will have a like a week, and it's usually like half days in the morning or something like that, where they offer it to middle school students and high school students to come in and have an experience where they get to try out usually 3 different areas. So if it's culinary, you could be lobbying that, hey, we might want to do something with us. And I would also be saying that, setting up those tours to be happening in the afternoon, because usually it's a half day setting, have something that people can come and see what's going on in your area. I think that's extremely effective. And I know that the students always are very excited after any one of those experiences.
All right, great resources there. And middle school is where it's at. That's great to know. All right, our last question that we've got today, we post job openings on our website and Facebook page. I think that's a great start, but what other sites, free or paid, should we be using to find applicants? Rebecca mentioned one, our jobs board. Rebecca, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Indeed is very, very popular with employers right now, and sometimes volume is what really matters in terms of job postings. So I guess it's not a personal sort of Indeed's better than anything else, but in terms of traffic, you should probably be posting on Indeed. And I think that for people who are hiring maybe 4-year grads, they're looking for those candidates. They should also be considering Handshake right now.
I would also say for the state of Wisconsin, if you can, post on the Job Center of Wisconsin. Again, it's a free resource for you. It also opens up the door for you to do some of those on-site recruitments at your local job center, take part in different job fairs and that sort of thing. I would look at that, but Handshake, you're right, is also an excellent one for technical colleges and community colleges across. And if you have a local, if you're in a state where you're not sure what your local labor exchanges, please let me know and I'll get you that information. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. So that concludes our question and answers for today. I'm not seeing any additional ones in the chat, but as I mentioned before, we'll send out contact information for all of our presenters after this webinar and all of the resources that they mentioned. So if you'd like to reach out to anyone, you will be able to. If you think of any questions after the fact and you'd like a little help getting in touch with folks, or just want to ask anything else about WCMA's resources and support that we offer, please feel free to contact Rebecca or myself anytime, and we're happy to help with that as well. Before we close out here, I'm so sorry we've gone just a little bit over time, but I want to mention our next WCMA member webinar. Registration is open for this right now at wischeesemakers.org. On Tuesday, April 18th, again at 1 p.m., we'll be talking about retail demos, how to put your best product forward and create a really effective, engaging retail demonstration. So we'll have folks from our friends over at Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin coming in to talk with us about that, and make sure that you have everything you need to create the best retail demo you possibly can to showcase your products and make some extra sales in the grocery store. So please make sure to mark your calendar for that. Go to whizcheesemakers.org to register. You can do that right now. And please feel free to reach out anytime if you have questions. We're here to help support you. And thank you so much again for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Have a great afternoon, everyone.